Will the Raiders be able to use Hard Knocks to lift their team into the playoffs? No, because they still traded away their best player. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to the episode of Packcast, the podcast where you're not to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom Grossi, and today we finish up with the divisional predictions and looking at the last division, the AFC West. Now, this division, you have two potential Super Bowl contenders within it, and then you have two other teams who are clawing at each other to try to rise out of mediocrity. And you got a national spotlight on two of those teams, one being the Chiefs and Patty Mahomes. And then, of course, you have the Hard Knocks superstars, the Oakland Raiders. And now, I'm not going to lie, I've been watching Hard Knocks this season. I've been looking and seeing, oh man, is there some, there's winds of change, are they coming? The autumn wind, is it blowing through the AFC West and the Raiders are going to be able to rise from the pits of the AFC West and rise to the top? The answer is obviously no. And obviously the Raiders are under a bunch of scrutiny, not only for hiring John Gruden, but also getting a Mike Mayock and also trading away Khalil Mack and picking up Antonio Brown, who has foot problems and helmet problems. They also made Jordy Nelson irrelevant, which I'll never forgive them for. But obviously loaded with first-round picks this year, getting their running back in Josh Jacobs, getting some pretty good depth on their defense. They are a team that is on the rise. And the question is, at least when the draft was rolling around, is Gruden going to roll with Derek Carr? It seems from Hard Knocks that he likes him, but at the same time, he also likes Nathan Peterman. So his judgment, who knows? But let's take a look. And if you're brand new to predictions, what we do is we take a look at every team's schedule, look at the hardest games that they have on those schedules, where they're most likely to face challenges and or losses, and then try to predict a record from there. So in 2018, you had two 12-4 teams. The first one is the Kansas City Chiefs, followed by the LA Chargers, then moving down to the Broncos at 6-10, and then the Raiders at 4-12. So they're already in a super competitive division, as the Broncos obviously signing Joe Flacco, trying to get better. And then you also have two teams who are potentially Super Bowl bound. And so who's ever within this division is going to face a ton of challenges and adversity. And so taking a look at this, I think the Raiders are going to finish once again at the bottom of the division. I have them going 4-12 again. And then again, that's not necessarily because I think the Raiders are an overall bad football team, but I'm not convinced with the players that they have in place, a lot of them being new, that they're going to be able to be successful, especially within this division, because they don't have the easiest schedule. So for example, like their offensive line, you see on Hard Knocks, these guys are huge. They got guys like Richie Incognito to come out of retirement to come and do this. I don't know if they're going to gel together. They have a lot of question marks at running back. Is Josh Jacobs going to be good? Is Derek Carr going to be able to hook up with AB? Is AB going to be the AB of Pittsburgh? Is he going to cause the same amount of problems that he caused in Pittsburgh? Obviously, this offseason has been a little bit rocky, to say the very least. And then the defense, obviously after trading Khalil Mack, that defense took a big turn for the worst. But they also have loaded up now in certain areas, improving the secondary within the draft and also the pass rush as well, going with Farrell for their 4th overall pick. So again, a lot of question marks, and in a division that is for certain going to have two pretty damn good teams, potentially contenders for the Super Bowl, I don't see them doing too well. So taking a look, I think the Chiefs will sweep them, so that's 2 losses right there. I think the Vikings will beat them. I think the Colts have a good shot at beating them. The Bears will definitely beat them. I think the Packers can take them down. The Texans, the Lions, I think might even be able to take them down, but that could go either way. You also have the Chargers, who I think will sweep them, and then you have the Jaguars and the Broncos. I think the Broncos will steal one from them, and the Jags could surprise people this year. Now, if I'm trying to be optimistic here, maybe they could beat the Lions, the Jaguars, and the Broncos, so that would make them at 7-9. But overall, I think it's going to be difficult for them to have a winning record this year, mostly because of their schedule. But again, they have a lot of question marks in a lot of key places. Is that offensive line going to be able to gel? Are they going to be able to have a running game going? Or is this just going to potentially, if this goes poorly, you're going to be seeing a disaster in slow motion, and it's just like slowly gets worse and worse and worse. I mean, Khalil Mack is a once-in-a-generation player. You can make the argument for Antonio Brown as well, but there are a lot of good wide receivers. There's a lot of great wide receivers, I would even argue, within the National Football League. There are not that many guys who can do what Khalil Mack can do. The only guy who pops into my head right now is, of course, Aaron Donald. And so, with all that being said, I think that the Raiders are going to have a tough time this year, but I think they have potential to improve on their record from last year. Then moving into number 3, the Broncos. A lot of people are saying that they are probably going to finish last, but while Joe Flacco isn't as bad as people will give him crap for, but he also had one of the best runs of it's a contract year. You haven't paid me. I'm going to go win a Super Bowl and then do nothing ever again. I think he's going to at least win some games for Denver, but I see them going around 4-12 as well. I think the Raiders will steal one from them. The Bears, the Packers, the Jaguars, I think could steal one too. I think they'll get swept by the Chargers. They'll be swept by the Chiefs. The Colts, I think, will steal it. The Browns, I think, can beat them as well. And then the Vikings and the Texans. And again, they could steal a couple games here and there, maybe from the Texans or the Colts, maybe the Jaguars as well. So they could be another 7-9 team as well. But the Broncos are definitely a team that is in the midst of rebuilding, in that they don't know what they're doing at quarterback. Flacco is obviously short-term before they allow Drew Lock to come in and fill in full-time, but we don't know what the story is with him. Obviously not showing the greatest strides in preseason, but the guy is still brand new. I'm not expecting the world here. So I think this is a rebuilding year again for the Broncos, and they'll be around the same record as the Raiders. Then moving into the number 2 spot, I think the Chargers have an opportunity, because of a pretty easy schedule and just the strength of their team, to go 13-3 this year. I think they will either get beat by the Chiefs at least once. They could potentially be swept, but I think the Bears will give them problems. And then I think they could drop either to the Vikings or the Packers. So there is potential that they do go, at worst, I think 11-5, losing to the Chiefs twice, the Bears, the Vikings, and the Packers. I mean, the NFC North is pretty good. They could be beaten by either of those teams, but I think they have definitely damn potential to beat the Vikings and the Packers. That defense has gotten amazingly better, even though it was exposed last year by the Patriots, but Derwin James also suffering an injury, so that is going to be obviously a little bit difficult to overcome. But a healthy Phillip Rivers, a healthy offense. Obviously, we don't know what's going on with Melvin Gordon, which I think is going to have a big impact on this team. So I could see them not doing this well. I could see them going 11-5, 10-6, but I still think they'll have a winning record overall, and I still think that they're going to make the playoffs, because I think there's just too much talent on that team. If guys like Keenan Allen can stay healthy the entire year, they will be successful. And then finally, that leads to the Kansas City Chiefs, who are an offsides away from just being in the Super Bowl. Well, an offsides and also a BS roughing the passer call, but that's neither here nor there. The Chiefs, obviously, Super Bowl favorites this year. Taking a look at their schedule, I think there's 3 teams that will give them the most problems. That will be the Patriots, that will be the Bears, and then that will be the Chargers. Out of those 3 teams, I think the best chance they have is by beating the Chargers, and then the Bears and Patriots I think could go either way. So they could go as good as 15-1, they can go 14-2, but I think 13-3 is a good steady way, kind of midpoint for them, because you never know what one of these random games that they wind up losing, or if they just kind of just destroy the entire league and at the very end they just sit their starters. But the Chiefs are obviously a very good team. They have a good defense. They have a great offense. They have a lot of weapons. Obviously, you have guys like Tyreek Hill, which is no longer going to be a problem anymore, but Kareem Hunt is no longer on the team, but they seem to have substituted at least a good player in that position. I'm not saying he's going to be great, but he's at least good. And so I think with Patrick Mahomes, I don't think he's going to throw 50 touchdowns again this year, but I think defenses are going to give them a little bit more problems, but this team is still really damn good. And when they have teams like the Broncos and Raiders to beat up on, I think that they should win this division. It should be a pretty easy walk for them, but then again, the Chargers might be nipping at their heels. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Do you think the Chiefs or the Chargers are going to win it? Do you think the Broncos and Raiders have a chance of finishing better than what I predicted? Let me know. You can always find me at TomGrossiComedy.com or at TomGrossiComedy on all the social media you see down below. Check out Patcast on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, and of course here on YouTube and Spotify. And of course, a big shout and thank you to Patreon members over at patreon.com/TomGrossiComedy. Check that out. We will be streaming this evening for the Packers-Raiders game in Winnipeg, so you can check that out later at the channel tonight. It starts at 8 p.m. Eastern. And we will also have a post-game breakdown of that as well. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you for everybody for commenting about what your predictions are over this past 2 weeks. It's been wonderful. I appreciate you. And I'll see you tonight. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi. And as always, go Pack Go.